Good evening, everyone, and let me be the first one and forward to wish you a very happy and prosperous new year. It's right around the corner, so I hope a pretty good year 2004. A lot of things certainly will take place next year, but sometimes at the end of the year you like to look back and sort of be a little bit nostalgic on what's been taking place, not only on a national level or in our own community, but in your own family. You know, sometimes when you look back at a year, you look at the high points, you look at the moments of sadness, and you look at some of the things that didn't quite turn out the way you wished them not to be. Sort of the disappointments that all of us face in life. So it's one of those years. But if we can sort of keep it together a little bit, everything always works out just fine. We do the best we can. We move on and try to take it, as proverbially as they say, just one day at a time. You know, it's been a bad week for many, many people as far as illness and sickness and flu and that type of thing. And so a lot of people are probably home this evening nursing a cold or nursing a headache or nursing a little bit of the flu as the flu season seems to be invading our area. That goes with the territory. A couple of things that have seemed to have been happening when you look back at a year, of course, Florida had a big year. It was an election year. And Mayor Lampert had a battle on his hands and with a challenger named George DeCombe. George DeCombe battled him tooth and nail. It was quite an election. Two city councilors, sitting incumbents, were defeated. Two first-time elected city councilors, I believe, and they were defeated, and that goes with the territory. Sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose. That also means that there'll be two new faces on the Fall River City Council. Bill Whitty will again reclaim the City Council presidency. Now that's a pretty unique situation. If you look at Bill Whitty, he's sort of a man who's like the juggling the balls all the time. This is his third time as City Council president, and that is rather unusual. I know in the City Council chambers they have pictures of the City Council presidents who presided over the City Council, and it goes way back. In fact, Steve Camara, former City Council president, just had his picture placed up there in a row of honor, if you would, at the City Council chambers, proclaiming Steve Camara as the City Council president of year 1992 to 1994, something like that. And then Steve got ousted, and Bill Whitty came in. He was elected City Council president, and he ran for mayor and was elected City Council president again. And then he was defeated in an upset and a very bitter challenge to his City Council presidency. But lo and behold, a couple of new faces went on at City Council, and Bill Whitty is again the City Council president. I don't know if it is a record to be a City Council president 3 times, but I can rest assured it most likely is. I don't know how far the record books are kept here at the city clerk's office, but if anybody who happened to be a sort of a City Council buff, maybe you could go out and find the answer. But I'm quite sure that Bill Whitty will be the third first individual who's ever held a City Council presidency for 3 times. Well, you know, it's been one of those years. When you take a look at the highlights of what takes place, you have to sort of look back at some of the things that happened to, like I say, to all of us. And I'd be remiss tonight if I just didn't pay homage to a man that was so special in my life, so special in many people's lives, so special to so many people he touched, people who he had never met, and when they did meet him, they were sort of overwhelmed by his kindness and generosity. A man that never turned his cheek or never turned his back on anybody. I mean that sincerely. A man that certainly didn't reach out to the rich and powerful, but reached out to the people who needed that kind of help. A man that was very instrumental in my My staying in Fall River, a man who was instrumental in so much in how we develop in life, how we sort of change our attitudes, how we become hopefully better people. A man that was there to help, a man who was there to listen, a man to pray with, that type of thing. The city of Fall River lost a real special individual last February 22nd. A man that was struck down early in life, only 60 years old, and had such a beautiful family, two beautiful daughters, a loving son, delightful wife, a man that meant so much to me and my family, a man that was like an uncle to my kids, a friend of my wife's, a friend of so many friends of ours. And it was just so unbelievable that this guy did so much for so many people. He was just a sort of a flea market man, a man who sort of picked up junk, if you would. And but if you needed some junk and you had a house that was burned out, or you were trying to help refurbish a little spare room, and didn't have a heck of a lot of money, and you had problems moving into this community, believe me, you would end up with a sizable amount of furniture at no charge. That's the kind of guy he was. He delivered it, set it up for you, he sat down with you, he met your families, he counseled your kids, he talked about God, he did all those things. He not only had a special relationship with so many people in this community, but he also helped the people who sometimes people feel uncomfortable with and don't quite understand how to deal with exceptional children. And this man was like a ballet dancer when it came to helping exceptional children. It was so special to view this man walk like a ballet dancer amongst so many of our needier exceptional children. And he always had a kind word for anybody. Never got involved in politics. He hated politics. He didn't like it. He didn't like the give and take, and that's okay. He never had a ill word to say about anybody. That's not the kind of person he was. He just shrugged it off. You couldn't keep him away from his mission. He always had a mission to help people. And the more I think about it in this last 10 months, the more I appreciated and loved this man. It was just so much sometimes that when you're so close to somebody special and you realize how much wonderment they've done, how many wonderful things they've done, and how many people they've touched. And there you are seeing it all. And the miracle is I saw it, I was enthused by it, I was energized by it, I was captivated by it, I was awestruck by it. These were daily incidents of helping people, daily incidents. And he did that all for the 26 years I knew him. And he did it long before I met him. And he did it basically all his life. He was never a real giant of academica, although he went on to college and graduated. He never was a giant in conversation in the sense of international affairs, although he knew who he liked and who he respected in the world of politics. He never got involved in power-driven arguments. I think the reason so many people enjoyed being with him, he would listen to you. He would listen to you. He would listen. And people have a special affinity for people who will listen and not make a rash judgment. So this special individual you could share things with, and some of the things that befuddle all of us, things that sometimes we don't wish to discuss, yet we have to unload the burden that all of us have, whether it be family affairs or job-related or incidents that took place, problems with here or problems with that. Sometimes we live in a society where we have to tough it out a little bit, and we got to play the tough guy. Well, this individual wasn't that way. He wasn't a tough guy. He was a guy that was very special. He knew the importance of communication. He knew the importance of being a friend. He knew the importance of being a father and a loving husband. He knew all of that. He knew when people were hurting. He had a special relationship with a God of his understanding. Had a beautiful relationship. So special. So many times when people talked about God, he didn't care what particular faith you belonged to. He had a special zeal, a special zest, a special glow that always seemed to burst out when people would share their love of the Lord with him. He was a gifted athlete as a young man, and gifted all the way for many years in his adulthood. Was one of those forever young people that loved their athletics, gave it all they had. You know what we mean? When you live in a city like Florida, you like to give it your best. You want to be on the team. You want to excel at third base. You want to be a pitcher. You want to hit the long ball. You want your team to win. You want to be a good teammate. You want to get the sports appeal. And that's the golden joy of sports and athletics, is to take this beautiful, whatever game it may be, and all it is a game, to take that game that so many people love to be involved in. Not to watch it, but to participate in it, to be a player. And he was a tiger. He was a tiger on the field. An excellent baseball player, a gifted athlete, gifted beyond anybody's imagination. Did he make mistakes? Oh, sure, he made a lot of mistakes. Who doesn't make mistakes? Who doesn't make mistakes? They were mistakes of the heart. Mistakes of sometimes is, we all make mistakes. We all make errors. But he never held anybody accountable for any mistake made against him. He always forgave. He always forgave. And so what did we lose in this community? Well, I think we lost a special person. Now, this isn't someone who will have a monument named after him. He won't have didn't have a big bank account. Wasn't a titan of industry. Wasn't a union zealot. Wasn't a accomplished this or accomplished that. He was just a flea market man, basically, but he had a degree in social services. He worked with all those people, and it was a magnificent sight to see. Had that special grace that so many people in social services have in a field that sometimes wears folks out. It does a number trying to help and reach out and touch people, and the people in that field know what I'm talking about. As many times we would talk about his ideas and what took place and how and his job and so forth and so on. All of those trials and tribulations of working in a very difficult field that really doesn't have a lot of remuneration. A field that you have to have a special way about you to deal with people. Well, he was in that field. And he also worked in a mill, and he rose, and he, like a lot of us, he worked in the factory, and he shared his experiences with me. And he left the factory, worked all day in the factory, went to school at night and got his degree. So he had a lot of special feelings about doing things of that nature. So when he went out and he got married and he fell in love, he asked the woman he fell in love with to be his bride. They were married, and they had 3 beautiful children. Still 3 of the nicest kids you ever want to see. They have the special blessings that happen to all of us when we sometimes get, we start to wonder about what's going wrong and why aren't good things happening? Why aren't we getting that promotion? Why don't we get this? And so that. But that's just the way life is. But that doesn't mean that the people who know us the best don't appreciate us. And that's what happened with this special individual. He had a special way about him, okay? People loved him. You know why? Because they saw something special in him. He had a smile. He had a sense of brightness. It's almost as if the sun shined on him. And when they buried him, and they had a eulogy, and at that eulogy, the pastor, well, happened to be Pastor Biddle from down north. Pastor Biddle said he had that name that was almost meant to be him, because his name was Golden. And I thought so much of that, and I still think what a beautiful way to describe a man. He was Golden. That was his name, Bill Golden. And so Bill and all of his families, I continue to miss my friend. I continue to miss him very much. But I marvel at the things that, and the people he touched, and how many people he helped. Oh, he didn't do it with a government shit. He didn't get the people from the agencies to move in. He did it himself. If somebody had to go to Boston, had to go to a medical appointment, he would do it. If you had to move some furniture, he would do it. If you needed somebody to do this, he would do it. If somebody had to watch somebody, he would do it. Everybody turned to him because he never knew the way, the word no. I can't do it. He did it. Sometimes, if you look back at it, and some people want to sometimes look at it and say, well, you know what, I should have, but he didn't. Sometimes, you know how I am, I would say, come on, Bill, I'm doing it. So I thank the good Lord that this man lived in this community, that this man had that special way about him. This man showed me so much about how to live. And that's the secret of life, is how to live. He did it. He never gave up on anybody. Nobody. Not once in his life did he ever give up on anybody. So it's been about 10 months since Bill Golden passed away in this city, in this community, and naturally his family and his friends who never knew him. Maybe he knows a little bit about somebody. When things are getting down, there are special people in this community. They care. They don't maybe get what they call the worldly recognition. And who needs worldly recognition? They don't get the recognition or the platitudes or some sort of a engraving, some sort of a citation. It wouldn't mean anything to him. Oh, he would have been very gracious, I'm sure. I know him. But we all know people who do so much. Hopefully our parents are the ones we put on a little bit of a pedestal. And hopefully as a parent, we can hopefully think that sometimes along the way that maybe, hopefully our children can say, you know, our moms and dads were somebody special. Because when life gets tough, and so many families in this community and around this country don't have, in the sense that children can really, hopefully, put their parents in some sort of a little pedestal, not a big pedestal. You don't want to put people on a pedestal because the fall is too difficult. When you put somebody on a pedestal, the fall is bad. So we need a little bit of a pedestal, just a tiny one, so that children can look up to their parents, and that's why so many people look up to their teachers, to their priests and ministers and rabbis, to their next door neighbor who is so special, the one who takes a little bit of extra time, that reaches out, someone who is not the run-of-the-mill, someone who won't, won't intimidate you. So I just, I want to thank the Opportunity Cable again to talk about this special man, because I think of this guy every single day. Every day I thank the good Lord for having had an opportunity to meet him and to keep the faith and move on. Ask God for special grace, not for me, but for people around me, that their lives will become a little easier. They want to have so much turmoil and horror in their life. And so I've been blessed. And my family was, we all were blessed. We used to sit back and talk about baseball, and my son used to be enthralled by the stories of baseball. But we were talking about the Red Sox. Of course, I've been a Cub fan and a Red Sox fan all my life. And sometimes my son will be on the back porch and we'll be talking about the Red Sox of Ted Williams and the Celtics of the early days, and things that youngsters like to hear about real old-fashioned professionals who gave it their very best. Because this is an area, so it seems, that in the world of athletics, we sort of look for that special guy. And this area of the country, naturally, we've had some giants. We've had, you name them, we had Ted Williams and Rocky Marciano, and on it goes, and Bobby Orr, and Phil Esposito, giants in the world of sports. And you'd be surprised to take a little bit of time and share the knowledge you have of when you were a kid and what they were doing that made you so, had your eyes full of wonderment at the world of athletics. We didn't have in those days where everybody be a free agency and you'd be with the team 1 week and you're with another ball club next year. They had long-term relationships many times with the clubs they were signed by. So I can never say enough about my friend. I just can't do it, and I've been so blessed to have a friend like that, and I know that he's in heaven. I know that because he always talked about heaven, because he believed. See, he knew. He said, "Don't worry about me, Gus. I believe." You know what? It's the kind of faith that really can move mountains. Because without faith, this world is nothing. What is it if you don't have some faith through all the turmoil we experience, through all the tribulations of parenthood, on the job, being a youngster? Oh, everybody has trials and tribulations. That's the way it goes. So Bill taught me, he used to say, come on, get with it. Get with the program. Turn it over to him. So I'm so delighted that I have an opportunity to tell you tonight about this guy named Bill Golden. He's been dead now for about 10 months. And if anybody were to ask me who was most beneficial in your life, I would say, naturally, of course, my wife and my parents. We all know that. And the God of my understanding. We all know that. This man. This man who was as humble as pie, yet he had a heart of a lion. He never gave up. He never gave up on anybody. And that's the miracle that maybe he would like to share with you tonight, if you were here. Never give up on a kid. Never give up on anybody. Always do the best you can, so that someday miracles will take place. And they have. So with that in thought, I just wanted to share that with you, because life begins on a daily basis. Oh, we have a new year, but we all are reawakened by a daily exercise. We have to get sort of moving on, get the job done, do the best we can. And you know what? Sometimes we talk, Bill and I would talk about kids and talk about the best thing for kids. And we open up the newspaper and it seems the horrors of heroin are all over the place. The police department seems to be making bust after bust. It seems to be a heroin epidemic. I don't know about you, but how many packets of heroin are seized on a weekly basis? How many people are stopped and how many people are charged? And the police files are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the tragedies that are developing are beyond anybody's comprehension. I can recall, and maybe you can, for some of you who may be a little bit less than under 30, that when people talked about heroin, it was like, that was like the end of it. That was like, nothing can beat it. And yet, they're selling heroin on the streets cheaper than a pack of cigarettes. The police seem to be overwhelmed in a sense, not by their efforts, I'm sure, but they seem to be making bust after bust after bust. And what does that mean to us as people? What does it mean to the generations that are going to follow us? What happens when heroin is used? What happens when these mind-altering drugs are entering the community and the violence that seems to be escalating? Oh, what happens to a society? What happens to a neighborhood? And more importantly, what happens to a family? I guess every parent now is worried themselves sick. Oh my God, we gotta keep an eye on Jimmy and Janet and Joan and all the kids. We gotta do the best we can. There's an epidemic, or so it seems. Are the headlines disturbing? Not really, because you're gonna read the backup. My point is, where is it all going? How many people are involved in this? Where is it going to end? You know, they had an interesting story on NBC last night about the victim of drunken driving. And people talk about alcohol and drugs and all of the things that are affecting society. Okay, all of those things that, see, when these things don't affect society per se, they affect the family, and then the family affects the society because the problems start to escalate. When I was a young man and people used to maybe drink too much and get into an automobile, many policemen were, in those days, they would say, come on, pull over, let me get your keys, and throw the keys away. That's the way it was done. Because many people say, everybody does this and that, and we don't want to hurt the man's reputation. I might know him. So there was no embarrassment. No embarrassment. Your name wasn't in the paper because the local policeman said, I'll just sleep it off a little bit. And that's understandable. That's the way it was in many cases. Nothing, I'm not making an indictment for or against it, but that's the way it was. Many people realized their errors of their way and didn't do that. And then for some reason, everybody who grew up in the 50s and 60s were well aware of pot, marijuana, reefers, whatever you wish to call it in those days. It was sort of a harmless thing, or people suggested it was. And then into the 60s, we went into marijuana, and people say, pot is better than alcohol, and no problem. And then in the 70s, the experts, the people we looked up to, our leaders, if you would, said, cocaine is harmless. It's not mind-altering. It's not addictive. I love it when they say that. It's not addictive. So we went from pot,